the doctor tells me, I'm sorry, but this thing is back. Cancer. Now this time in the colon.
It spread to the colon.
I can say it came back or it spread. Because down they removed everything. Total hysterectomy is all that. So maybe it was already in the colon. I don't know. But he said we are seeing, but it's still very early stage. What we can do, as we did for the uterus, let's just remove this part. The doctor told me so casually, the intestine is so long. So we'll just cut the size of a ruler times 2.
Which ruler? 30 centimeter, 15 centimeter?
30.
30 times 2.
And you'll be fine. It's just that kidogo. For him it is kidogo. But I'm telling you, Doctor, I've lost so many parts of my body. And he said, but we are saving your life. I said, okay. So I signed the consent form. We go to theater, it's cut. But unfortunately, it kept spreading. So it spread more downwards, thankfully. So it spread to the organs from the colon going downwards. So that meant the rectum was affected and all that. The rectum, the anus, all that. Mm-hmm. So maybe your next question would be, so if all that you don't have, how do you pass through it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's this one time I went for my appointment, but I went before the appointment day because I was in a lot of pain. A lot of pain. And because I had gone to theaters for so many other procedures, so the doctor tells me, I'll give you a colostomy and you'll be fine. Would you know what a colostomy is? If I asked you today, what is a colostomy?
You see?
You don't know. And many other Kenyans do.
Yeah.
But because I'd gone to theater, so I thought, okay, because I'm in pain, maybe this is the wonder drug that will take away my pain. I said, okay, if I sign a consent, we go to theater. From theater, I sleep, I wake up, and then a nurse is next to my bed, and she tells me, you need to remove that bag. And I thought, bag? When I went to theater, my bag was taken home. And everything else that I had. So which bag are you talking about? And she kept on insisting, you need to change this bag. I'm like, bag? And you know, when you just woken up from theater, you're not sober. But she kept on insisting that you need to remove this bag. So I checked, I looked at, she was pointing on my side, the side of my body, saying remove the bag. So when I looked where she was pointing and the bag she was referring to, I saw something pinkish, huge, covered with something. Now that's what she was calling a bag. And I looked at it again, I thought, this is my intestine. And it is hanging outside. Intestine is an organ that is supposed to be inside the body. How come mine is hanging outside? And we are from theater, what's happening here? And I told her, can you help me? And she looked at me and said, utajipanga. In one of the biggest hospitals in this country.
Utajipanga kivipi?
That's my question. So you see why I'm suicidal? Like, one after another. I'm happy for doctors, they do a lot, they make us live, but some of them are cruel. So this nurse just left and told me, oh, utajipanga. She told me what you're telling me is equivalent to carry this tissue and go with me to the toilet. I said, it sounds like that, yes. But I'm like a baby now. I don't know what to do. So that's why I'm asking for help. Say, utajipanga. Sort out yourself. And she left. So my surgeon comes for the normal rounds. And I tell him, Doctor, this is what is happening. He said, even him, he just smiles. Don't worry, someone will sort you out. Day 2, someone will sort you out. Day 3, someone. Day 7, I told him, you know, from HIV, I'm an HIV activist, you know that. So, do you know what I'll do tomorrow if I'm not sorted out? Or not even tomorrow, today, because they come in the morning. So I told him, during visiting hours today, I will strip myself naked and walk with this bag you are telling me on the corridors of this hospital. And you know what that will mean, the reputation to the hospital. And he thought, okay, now this woman I was laughing with is serious this time. So he called a nurse, a male nurse now, who was very cooperative, and he explained to me, pole pole, like, you remember when you're going to hospital, when you came in, you were in so much pain, and the doctor told you he'll give you a colostomy? I said, yeah, I can vividly remember, yeah, something like that, but he didn't explain what a colostomy is. So he told me colostomy meant, because now your colon has been removed, your rectum has been removed, and because the rectum is attached to the anus, all that was removed so that cancer doesn't spread. So because you have to eat, digestion will take place, and you have to pass stool. You don't have a passage for stool. So colostomy is the new passage of stool for you. So that means they opened your stomach and pulled out the colon, the colon that was left, and sutured it on top of the skin to make a hole for the passage of stool. So that is colostomy. Unfortunately, you have to live like this for the rest of your life. That was 12 years ago. And remember when I started this interview, I said I'm 53 years old. I am proud of every birthday because of... So it tells me, unfortunately, you have to live with this bag, you are being told. And I was like, are there any other people living in this condition? Like for HIV, I know people are even belonging to a support group. Do we have support groups for this kind of people? And he said, yeah, I'm thinking of forming one. And yeah, you could join. So I told him, I'm not leaving this hospital until you show me not one, not two, not three people who have this condition. Then I'll trust you. So he actually called 6 people. I was in the hospital for 2 months to recover, and also just to know how to manage my condition when I go home. How do I get the bag? How do I place it? What do I do? And all that education that comes with it. So he was very supportive, and he showed me 6 people. So we actually started talking about forming a group, and that happened after discharge. So we started meeting, and of course I already belonged to HIV support group, so it was easy for me to even start coordinating this other one, plus the help of people who are there. So a lady who came and told me, I've been with it for 10 years, another one 15 years, another one 20, another one 18. So I said, oh, okay, so I'm a baby amongst you. But it wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy.
At all. Because now stool is coming out from the side of my body, which I have to cover 24/7 with a bag that I don't even know where I'll get. Thank God I am employed. That time I was employed. Now I don't have a job. One of these bags costs between 500 shillings and 1,000 shillings.
How many does one need?
Depends how much you eat. Because once it is filled, you have to remove it. Okay, there are some that are drainable, but some are one use. So once the bag is filled, it's like a pamper, You remove, you put another one. But this one is an expensive pamper. I'm here, my colostomy. And then we formed this group, and I go talking. So I was wondering, this happened to me in this hospital. How about in public hospitals, for example, Kenyatta? And I decided, let me go there and see people who have such surgeries. Do they get help, and what kind of help? Are they facing the challenges I faced? So I go there and I find, oh my God, at least I had a bag. These people don't have. Some are using polythene, they're using bed sheets, they are just... And from my 12 years experience, I've seen patients dying, not because they are sick, but psychologically, emotionally. If with my condition, if I don't eat, I just decide to starve myself to death, I'll die. I actually call some of these bills satanic figures. You see, like, you go to a doctor's room and they tell you, now, your treatment plan, you need to have like 1 million to start with. That alone kills people. You never had 500 shillings on your M-Pesa. And the doctor tells you you want 1 million to start with, meaning not just 1 million, it will be more as time goes by. I really appreciate, and I repeat again, I really appreciate what the medics are doing. I am forever grateful. Through God's grace, they saved my life. And I appreciate that they went to college and they've studied medicine. But to be honest, what they charge sometimes is not fair. Yes, they are saving lives, they are doing all that. But for me, they should not do it for business. To save lives, you shouldn't do it for business. Like personally, I offer service, and you can pay me if you feel like. But I tell you, this is what I do for a living, but I don't charge you. But if you feel like you want to support what I do, then you give. Because I've been there and I understand. People are dying not because they are sick, but because they are told. Like, for example, just one example that I would use. I am having a colostomy. I need a bag, which costs, let's use the lowest figure, 500 shillings. These 500 shillings, if I have children who want to go to school, they want to eat, there is rent to be paid, there is all this. What is the priority?
And you're alone at that time.
Yeah.
What's the priority?
What is the
The
priority?
children.
Yes. So I'll not eat. And you see now, people are dying because of, now I'm telling you, I've had this bag for the last 12 years. Every day, let's say just a bag every day, 500 times 365 days times 12. That alone is enough to kill someone. That thought of, for the rest of my life. So how many years God has given me to live with this condition? So one of the reasons I share my story, you know, someone can look at me and say, see, just wear your colostomy bag and go. See, just take your ARVs and go. Why do you have to tell the world? I have to talk. One, to create awareness and encourage someone out there who feels they are alone. That I want to tell them that there are people. Like when we started the support group, we were 6 people. That was in 2010. The group has now grown to 300 members.
Wow.
I'm not happy that people are getting cancer to that extent.
No,
But I'm happy that, yes, they have this condition, but they can reach us to get that help. Because in the group we get donations from overseas that come, and then we're able to give the members. But we have to do the shipping ourselves, so we have to fundraise. Because the donor says, okay, I have the bags in Canada, but how do they reach you in Kenya? So you guys have to fundraise so that you ship them to come to Kenya. So we have that privilege. But again, I'm a Christian, so if I don't go to church on Sunday, the pastor will not get their salary. My tithe, my offering is the salary. So if I don't do that, so what I'm trying to say is this, donation is not sustainable. Someone will give you today, tomorrow, they're not there. So I'm trying to talk so that the government can create a system. You see, like HIV now, things are happening, and I'm happy that I'm among the people who fought, and now ARVs are there for free in government hospitals. So I'm telling the members, as much as this condition has a lot of stigma, let us speak out. Because if we don't speak, the government wants to hear numbers. Is it just Sallie who is wearing a bag? That's not an issue. So they won't provide. But if all of us go out there and speak, then the government will realize, oh, these people have this condition, they need this facility, they need this appliance. Let us give them. The same way that happened for HIV. We have VCTs everywhere. There's a system for HIV. You go to a VCT, you turn positive, you are taken to the next step of counseling and treatment. But when it comes to cancer or even these other chronic conditions, there's no system of, if I have diabetes, where do I go, what do I do, what happens, like that. So someone would wonder, why do we have to know? So one, as I said, encouraging someone who has gone through it, and also asking the government to do something. I know there are so many needs from every other people, but let us also consider this. It is actually a disability, but we are not under the list of persons with disabilities, because it is not feasible. If you look at me, I don't have a wheelchair, or I don't have a crutch, but I've lost so many parts of my body. I am disabled, but it's not feasible. It's not feasible that you can see, but I have the condition. If I didn't have a colostomy bag where I'm seated now, we couldn't be here now. Yeah, because of the smell and everything. I couldn't even come to this place. I couldn't travel to come here. So also to tell people that we have the support group, but I'm also hoping that if this idea can be bought by the government, so that we have ARVs, you can get ARVs from anywhere in the country. You don't have to come to a particular place. If the same can happen for this condition, the stomach condition, like if you get your surgery in Kisumu, the bag is there. In Nyeri, in Eldoret, in wherever, in Mombasa, you don't have to travel to Nairobi for treatment. Like a lot of people are now traveling to Kenyatta University or Kenyatta for Kenyatta Hospital for chemo and radio and all these other services. If we can have these services in all these counties in the country, it would be a good thing. And for me, I will speak until that happens. Even if I'll be gone, I wish that this interview is shared all over so that people know that there's this condition and people are living with it. The bag has to be there 24/7. 24/7. Because, it's not the normal way, so stool will just come out anytime. So the bag has to be there. And it has to be a quality bag, not just a bag, a quality bag. One of the major one is stigma. And stigma, I would say, I'll describe stigma in two parts. One is the self-stigma. Like, for example, I'm saying I've gone through cervical cancer, I can't get babies. So I'm even fearing to go into a relationship with a man because they will ask me for babies and I don't want to disclose that bit of I got cancer, and so I'm stigmatizing myself. Or I've gone through colon cancer, I have a colostomy. So how do I start telling someone who wants to have a relationship with me that, my poo comes from the side of my body? Okay, personally, I don't have a problem, but a lot of other cancer patients and survivors have. Another one is the external stigma now from other people. Like, if you're a woman and you can't give birth, in the society you are not respected or you are not taken seriously. A mother-in-law would not love you the same way they would love another woman who can give them children. And so there's that stigma. And also, once someone has cervical cancer, there's a discharge that never ends. And sometimes it's smelly. So just sitting near people and they're like, oh, this place is smelling. And of course, the colostomy bag, that one, stigma is so high. But for me, the way I fight that stigma is, who doesn't use the toilet? Like, who doesn't pass stool? It's only that I'm doing it from a different place, but it's the same thing. It's passing stool. So, for me, I call it fighting the poo taboo. Like, why is it a taboo to speak about some things? Like, below the belt is a no-go zone. Let us not talk about that, especially us Africans. Anything below the belt, please, let's not go there. Like, that's why people are not talking about HIV. For example, for our children, we tell them, you're going out, it's a Friday, go out, like, usifanye tabia mbaya, like, be a good boy, be a good girl. But we are not defining good. What is good? Or tabia mbaya. What is tabia mbaya? Because they go out there, they have fun with their children, with their peers. They get a sugar mommy, they get a sugar daddy, so they're not seeing anything bad. So what are we talking about? And now with the internet, they have mobile phones, smartphones, they Google everything. So what are you talking about? So I can say that as parents, we have also failed because we are not training our children the way they should grow up. Like when you say mbaya, like what is bad? What is good? Define so that they know these are the boundaries. And it's good to start early because it reaches a point that they are growing faster than us. So there are things they know that we don't know. So we should really start early so that they understand even as they're growing up. Like I'll go back to HIV and say there's a time is coming when we shall not have age 15 to 35 because of the rate of deaths from HIV. They are dying, some of them are committing suicide, some of them are going into depression, and then they go into drugs, they join Illuminati, they do whatever to keep away that thing of I have AIDS, so what next? So that's how they are fighting, but they are dying. A lot of youth are committing suicide. I belong to these support groups, and I also do mentorship in these groups of youth, and most of them are dying because of suicide. They're committing suicide. Like maybe someone was born with HIV. Now they are grown. The first case of HIV was in 1984. So now the people who are born that time are adults.
Yes.
Some of them would want to have families. How do you start telling someone that I'm a virgin but I have HIV? No one will buy your story. So they go and commit suicide. It is that sad. Rejection. So it's so bad. Rejection even from just their peers, family members, maybe they're orphans, they're living with aunties who are not very cooperative. Yeah. I must say that I'll appreciate that there's something happening, but still we need to reinforce, like people like us who are survivors, to speak more, because again, the word cancer is a death sentence is still in many people's minds. So the only way to remove that is to speak. People like us who have survived, that yes, not all cancer diagnosis equals death. I survived. Someone else says I survived. And even if the governments can also give data on survivorship, they are saying 9 women are dying from cervical cancer every day. How many have survived? Sallie and who else? That would be encouraging to a woman who hasn't gone for screening. So how many people are surviving also? Okay, death is there. We are all going to die one day, maybe from cancer or not. But it's also good to say that, like for example, I'm saying my first diagnosis for cancer was 2007. Today is 2022. So, and I believe there are many other people. So if that data can be collected and say, okay, these ones have died, but these ones have also survived. And also just to keep creating awareness. Like I said, like now HIV awareness is not there so anymore, but people are still dying. HIV is a virus, it is still there.
And the stigma is still
The stigma is still there. So we shouldn't stop talk. And people who have gone through it, and also an area that needs to be looked at also is on caregiving. Caregivers are also going through a lot. So that support system for caregiving. Because if I'm a patient and someone comes to my house, they will want to know how I am. But this person who is taking care of me, they don't care whether they ate or they have not taken water, or they'll just ask, mgonjwa anaendeleaje? How is the patient? But they not ask, how are you doing? You who is taking care of the patient. Actually, I have been a patient. I was in bed for 2 years, and I was made so comfortable when my family was traumatized. Because they are so concerned about me. Like, is she in pain? Let's give her painkiller. Has she eaten? Chakula ya mgonjwa imepikwa. Like, that chakula ya mgonjwa for me is stigma. What is food should be food, not for patient and this other one. You cook 2 pots. Food is food for everyone. So the caregiver is suffering because taking care of the patient, and everyone is just concerned about the patient, not about the caregiver. And you find that some patients are neglected because now the caregiver doesn't know what to do with them, to handle them. Some people who have money will take them to a home or leave them in the hospital without being discharged because they don't know how to treat you when you come home. So if also a system could be put in such a way that caregivers are maybe they are cancelled or debriefing sessions are done for them so that they also pour out what they are going through. Because the patient will be asked, how are you feeling? But the caregiver will not be asked.
They also need support.
They do. One thing I would say that I'm humbled and I appreciate every breath that I take. For me, it is every breath, not every... We say we take it one day at a time. For me, it's one breath at a time. And I really appreciate it. And I'm a Christian, so I'll share a verse from the Bible. Psalms 118, verse 24. I remember when we were in school, we could sing, this is the day that the Lord has made. But having gone through whatever I've gone through and reading my Bible, it came out strongly like, this is the day the Lord has made. The Lord's day. And it goes on and says, let us rejoice and be glad in it. So for me, that is my prayer. Even if I don't do a long prayer for an hour, I just wake up and tell God, thank you for this day that you have made. May I rejoice and be glad in it. Because it is your day. It is God's day. It is not cancer. It is not colostomy. It is not HIV. It is not whatever. So I just want to encourage people that there's hope. Never lose hope. As long as your heart is still beating, God has a purpose. And this day He has made it that we may rejoice. So I always tell God, anything that will hinder me from rejoicing, just remove it. Obstacles will be there. There's no road that is straight. There are bends, there are bumps, there are potholes. But you have to continue traveling in the journey until that day when we will be called home. So we have to keep hope alive.
To keep hope alive.
Right. So the group is called Stoma World Kenya. It is a support group for people who have the condition called stoma. Stoma is the hole, the passage of stool. It can be stool, it can be urine as well. So anyone who has the condition, and the condition is not just, okay, a lot of people get it because of cancer, but some people get it because of various reasons. Any injury to your colon or bladder could lead you to having a stoma. What I mean is, let's say for example you get an accident. Like I'll share an example of members in the group. We have 5 members, young guys, who have the condition not because they had cancer, but because they got motorbike accidents. Motorbike got an accident, they rolled over, they fell down somewhere, and something injured their colon. Pricked until inside the colon, or the ileum, or the bladder. So now, because of that injury, they get a stoma. So depending on how severe the injury is, it may be a permanent situation, and then it's reversed. But for cancer, mostly it's permanent. Like for example, my case, it affected the rectum as well, so that has to be removed. But we have also children who are born with unperforate anus, so they can't pass stool. So then a stoma is created temporarily, maybe for a year or so. Then the way of passage, the passage of stool is created, then they're able to be reversed. So there are various reasons. Some people get serious ulcers, and then it affects the colon. So it's just a diversion. So anything happening to your digestive system can cause you to have a stoma, either temporary or permanent, depending on what the problem was. Yeah. So the group is for people who have the condition, whether cancer or not, but you have the condition either as a caregiver or a person having the condition yourself. Yeah. And we have a WhatsApp group where we interact. During COVID, we were not able to meet physically, but now we are. And one of us has graciously offered to get us a space at one of the Hindu temples, so we meet at Pangani temple here. Yeah, and you know, something else I would say as I finish is people take a lot of things for granted. Just imagine just going to the toilet and being able to use it. Some of us can't. We need 500 shillings to do it. So there are so many things we take for granted. So that's why I was saying life has really humbled me, and I really appreciate every breath that I take. Because imagine just going to the loo, you can't do it. You need a special appliance. So we shouldn't take anything for granted, and just be grateful for this day that the Lord has made. Yeah.
Thank you for being with us and for watching our powerful and inspirational stories. Make sure you are informed, inspired, and involved in the fight against NCDs. Make sure you follow us on all our social media platforms at being.africa. I've been your host, Valerie Aura.